Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Dr. Roxy Mooney with us today. She is CEO and a healthcare commercialization growth growth coach, that is, slash GTM slash digital health advisor at Legacy DNA. Growth for Health Innovators is what she is into nowadays. She's also a board member. She's also a podcast host and a bunch of other things that we're going to talk about today. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. That's my podcasting agency. If you want to start, scale, be invited to a podcast like this one, you can go to podpire.com. Roxy, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays.
Thank you for inviting me to join you. Oh, I am up to a whole lot. So I work in the healthcare industry, like you mentioned, and there is an explosion of innovation happening in this field. And so what I do is I come alongside startup and early stage entrepreneurs, and I coach them around their growth strategies. I have a healthcare millionaire coaching program. And then I also work with mid-size, more of late health innovators, late stage companies, and helping them with their growth strategy. And with that program, it's called a Millions to Billions coaching program.
How did you get started?
So it's kind of a funny story. Maybe about 17 years ago, I started working with a couple of entrepreneurs that were in the healthcare industry. It was kind of when I first got my foot into that vertical. And I was the chief marketing and communications officer for 5 brands. And so I really got a chance to get really well versed into the industry in different sectors of healthcare and wellness. And during that time, I just really got excited about all of the innovation and transformation that was happening in healthcare. Historically, healthcare is kind of a laggard vertical, and they're just the late adopters for any best practices. And 20 years ago, you could have a billion-dollar business in healthcare and not apply all of the best practices that we know that are critical and essential to have a viable business outside of healthcare. And so I started to see this transformation that was going to be happening in the industry and decided that that's where I wanted to spend my time. I felt like the marketplace was going to need people that were really experts in those strategies and practices to start applying to those businesses. So at that time, I was doing a lot of marketing strategy and planning and branding and messaging and marketing campaigns, lead gen, all that jazz. And so for the last 17 years, I've been in healthcare. And after I did that, I decided I wanted to start up my own business. So I started Legacy DNA about 14 years ago. Started off as a healthcare marketing agency, and I graduated with my doctorate in business. I am not a medical doctor. I am a doctor of business, and my doctorate is in commercializing technology innovation in healthcare. So I pivoted the business and repositioned around being a commercialization and growth firm, and a few years ago, and kind of really been focused on that. From the doctorate work that I did, I developed a couple of strategy frameworks that are based upon all of my research, published in a peer-reviewed journal, took all of those insights, knowing that CEOs and founders aren't always reading peer-reviewed journals, decided that I wanted to be able to publish a book. So I did that in 2018, started the Health Innovators podcast show around the same time because I wanted to continue to learn from innovators and be able to tap into their real world experiences on trying to commercialize innovations in the healthcare industry. So I've been doing that for the last 5 years, still love it, having conversations with new people, new amazing people that are transforming their part of healthcare. And then recently I launched a Health Innovators community with some classes, some online courses, to be able to, still be able to share my knowledge and expertise with my target audience.
Pretty cool. And I guess the main revenue generator in your business would be the consulting side / coaching.
Yep.
So
exactly.
what are the niche is really cool, by the way, I love it. What are the prices for your program? And precisely like who in healthcare? Are we talking about hospital, pharmacy, private practices? Like who do you target?
Yeah, great question. So it's 30K for a 12-week program. So 2 to 3 month sprint. And who am I? What was the second question?
Yeah, your ICP.
Oh, my ICP. So don't sell to hospitals. They are usually too bureaucratic and really long sales cycles. So don't really sell to them. Don't really sell to medical practices because physicians in general don't really value and understand marketing in a lot of what we do. So sometimes you might have a physician founder that we would work with, but these are entrepreneurs who maybe inside or outside of healthcare, but they've identified a problem in the healthcare industry, whether it's B2B or B2C, and they've decided that they want to create some kind of innovation to solve it. So it could be an innovative service, an innovative product. That might be like a Fitbit. It might be a medical device. It might be a pharmaceutical drug. It might be a mobile app, an AI-enabled software solution, a digital therapeutic. Could be, any number of those. It could be a longevity solution for an aging population. Could be B2B or B2C. And those are the people that we usually work with, and some kind of innovation that they're wanting to bring to market and successfully commercialize.
So I would guess funded startups or midsize, definitely not a huge pharma company because these are slow moving or tend to be. So what would be the size of the business in terms of revenue or headcount?
So funded startups are funding's important, right? Because there's a whole lot of companies out there that aren't funded, and so 30K is usually very difficult for those folks. But I've worked with people that are a team of one. And then if you're kind of going on the other side around our millions to billions program, those are usually companies that have had success. They're already generating multiple millions of dollars in revenue, but they're looking for an expert to help them get their company to the next big thing. I describe it as building their billion-dollar dream business, something that we have experience with, helping those more larger companies, established companies, go from millions to billions, and then just repackage that framework to be able to help other people. Those folks, they can have maybe 250 employees, 500 employees, maybe even upwards of 1,000. Really just depends on the business. Those larger enterprise companies that you described, like health systems or pharmaceutical companies, we could work with them, but they're not necessarily the ideal company for us to work with, for all the reasons that I just described.
How do you get from millions to billions? So I would guess you're at a million, you're already running on at least 20 employees. You already have your systems. To me, it's ensuring that the base is there while taking big risks and going all in on innovation. And a billion, you'd refer to an independent valuation or an exit straight up. So who have been your successful case studies, companies you've brought from millions to billions?
So I won't name any specific names, but I'll say that it's in healthcare and a number of different sectors. And what are some of the characteristics of that? It's definitely having a strong brand promise, having a irresistible offer. A lot of times, I know it sounds crazy when you're outside of healthcare, but in healthcare, you can have a 25, 50, $100 million company, maybe even more than $100 million company, and still not really have what we would consider an optimized strategy. So they've accomplished incredible success with things that probably would not be successful in other industries. And then we come alongside them and we help them optimize that foundation. And usually that just turns the faucet on. It really helps with their exponential growth. And it could be, targeting other markets or other sectors. It could be product expansion. It could be upsell, cross-sell. It could be culture. I mean, there's a number of different variables and factors, and really it depends on what target audience they're serving and what problems that they're interested in solving.
Interesting. So tell me about the podcast itself. Why did you decided to start it? What was the strategy behind it, and has it met your goals since yet?
So for me, my number one addiction, I think, is learning. And so once I graduated with my doctorate, I actually still took more classes at Harvard. And then I thought, how can I continue this learning? And all of my doctorate work was around qualitative research. It was phenomenological study. So it was all about lived experiences. So to me, the podcast show was a great platform to be able to continue that real world research and being able to learn. So over the last 5 years, if you can imagine, I've interviewed hundreds of people that match my ICP, and being able to understand the challenges that they're facing, the strategies that they already have that they're doing well. So it gives me a lot of market research in real time and a better understanding of what they're afraid of, what they're dreaming of, for us to be able to frame up our offer more strategically and make it irresistible. So that's really why I started it. And I started off interviewing influencers because I felt like that was going to be the biggest way for us to be able to expand our audience the quickest. Without really any monetization strategy. Let's just focus on learning, and let's focus on getting the content out. The other piece I thought was really important is, when you spend years researching every angle you can possibly imagine on a very niche business problem, you want to be able to share that with the world. You don't want to be able to, I can only help so many people with our consulting and coaching business. So being able to have the platform, the podcast show, give me an opportunity to be able to not only learn from them, but also being able to share my expertise along the way with the world. In healthcare, well, actually outside of healthcare, 95% of innovations that are brought to market usually fail. And there's a bunch of nuances in healthcare that make it even extra complex. So, healthcare is personal. Even if you don't work in the healthcare industry, we all face aging. We all get sick at some point, whether it's chronic or acute, and we all use healthcare services. So we all kind of have some skin in the game in making sure that we fix our healthcare system. And, you've got thousands and hundreds of thousands of innovators that come up with these really great products, really great solutions. But there's a real deficit in really understanding the commercialization process and strategies to be successful. So I call it the zombie graveyard. You've got a lot of really great stuff that's in the zombie graveyard, and it's not because it wasn't meaningful. It could save lives, improve quality of life, but the only reason why we in society don't have access to it is because they didn't have the commercialization expertise to be successful. And that really is, something that keeps me awake at night and motivates me to keep doing what I do. And so that's also a big part of the podcast show. After I was doing it for a couple of years, I said, okay, well, it's not really cheap to do. It's not expensive, but it's not free. And so I've explored a number of different monetization strategies on being able to, have conversations and meet those goals that I just described for you, but also being able to expand that, being able to translate that into people that are guests on the show, identifying their goals in the next 90 days, and then being able to frame, if it's a fit, being able to frame our solution for them. And that's had varying degrees of success. I think for me, I've always wanted to make sure that never felt like it was a bait and switch. I wasn't asking someone to come on the show as a guest just to sell them my stuff. So I would say that I'm probably more of a marketer and business strategist than I am a salesperson. So I always felt uncomfortable with being able to transition from having this really rich educational kind of let's just give back to the world conversation and turn that into a sales conversation.
Yeah, that feel awkward. I think in the end, we're more humans than we are sales or marketing people. At the end of the day, it's just like, is it a good energy fit? Is the energy flowing between us, and can we multiply our energies by spending time together, sort of? And podcast is a nice filter to that. Question that I have for you is, how do you innovate in the healthcare sector? And usually, how do you commercialize that innovation? Is it about getting funded? Is it about trying to get product market fit? At what point do you know if it's an innovation, and how can you scale that into a $1 billion company?
Yeah, all great questions. Well, the number one reason why an innovator fails is because there's no market need. So I would say that that's probably the number one thing that we're trying to overcome, is entrepreneurs that maybe have a personal experience with something in healthcare and think that there's a market for the solution, don't necessarily do enough customer discovery to validate demand, and then just go out and spend, tens, hundreds, sometimes even millions of dollars on building something, only to find that nobody wants to buy their stuff. And it's a real sad day, but it happens a lot. Outside of that, I think there's a lot of opportunity of, again, just kind of those best practices, that if I'm building something that solves a problem, then it's going to kind of sell itself without really understanding a couple of different things. So often health innovators, when they're going to market, they want to sell to many different markets at the sectors in healthcare at the same time. And they're usually, resource strapped in the beginning. So it also sets them up for failure when they're trying to tackle or penetrate multiple markets at the same time that might have different value propositions or different product configurations in order to be successful. Kind of like a one size fits all really appeals to none. I really could go on. There's a lot. Most people in healthcare don't have an offer. They just talk about what they do. I'm selling an AI enabled solution for radiology. Want to buy it? And so there's a lot of commoditization in healthcare. There's a lot of Me Too solutions. So then they're just competing on price. And then, that's often not a really winning strategy. Certainly won't help you become $1 billion company. So being able to really coach and help people build that irresistible offer and reframe it so that way they have better competitive power and can sell at higher premiums, usually helps them scale and sell faster. So a lot of those little nuances all makes a big difference. Product market fit is certainly a piece of it. That's kind of a sexy term, right, for businesses. And it is really important milestone to kind of indicate success. But I don't think that there's a lot of them that actually ever get to product market fit. They have a handful of people that want to buy their stuff. Sometimes it's friends, family, immediate people in their network, but being able to, penetrate the market beyond that in any reasonable fashion can be very challenging and cumbersome with how they're positioned or lack of positioning and messaging and branding or marketing campaigns.
Last but not least, because we're already out of time, tell me about the single mom organization that you started, I believe, and tell us about the sexual assault survivor org that you're sitting on a board of right now.
Yep. So I'm actually stepped down from that board because I'm serving on another board that's in healthcare, but the company is called One Purse. It's a nonprofit. It's actually a friend of mine who started maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. And, whether we realize it or not, there's a lot of girls, women that are being trafficked all around the world, a lot of times in our own backyard. And we just don't know what's happening. And there's a lot of entities, a lot of resources to support that, people to rescue them, people to extract them, safe homes for them to stay in temporarily. But there's also a gap in the market with those next step resources to make sure that they don't get into the trafficking situations again. And so One Purse uses the power of a purse to be able to raise money that then funds scholarships for sex trafficking survivors, for them to be able to go to hair school or be a yoga instructor or college, whatever that might be, for them to be able to change the trajectory of their future and reimagine what that might look like. So it's a cause that I'm very passionate about and still involved with, even though I'm not on the board anymore.
Thanks for sharing your knowledge today. Where can people find out more about you?
You can reach me on LinkedIn, Dr. Roxy Mooney, or really just about any social media platform. If you just put in Dr. Roxy Mooney, you'll find it, Roxie, and Mooney is like money with 2 O's.